to get our Packers view and our Green Bay view of what's taken place with all things Packers. Instead of just relying on the dope sheet, we talked about that the other day, we'll go to my favorite dope and a guy that I've known for a long time. He's Dale Ryman from NewsChannel 7 in Wausau. Dale, we're on the radio together, pal. How about that?
Feeling the love, as always.
That's right. You know, a little KDUH, KSDF love going back and forth, although, of course, I saw in your bio, full disclosure, so Dale and I worked together in television way too long ago. I don't like to admit how long ago that's been, but you were at the competing station, right? I mean, I was the ABC, you were the CBS, but then you worked at both.
Yeah. Actually, when you left for Lincoln, I jumped across the street and took the sports director gig. So thank you for doing that, and it gave me the shot that I needed for my career.
Like, and look at you now, right? So how many years in Wausau for you, and how many years of covering the Packers?
This is 10 years now in Wausau, and I was in Rhinelander, Wisconsin for 3.5 years before that, after I left Scottsbluff. So in total, 14 years covering the Packers directly, and then I worked in the Quad Cities for 4 years, and that's kind of Bears and Packer territory. So, you know, roundabout here, about 18 years or so.
So you probably know the football team just a little bit, I guess, was what I was leading up to. And, you know, I will start with this because, again, I made fun of it because I forgot that they called their notes the dope sheet. And the other day we had a guy on, the young kid said dope means something different to him, and we started laughing about that. But that's what they call their notes. And in the notes, they talk about that Green Bay has had their training camp at St. Norbert College for 60 years. Now, I know the second team behind that would be Minnesota, and they always trained at Minnesota State Mankato, but I believe this is the last year that they're going to do that. I think the Vikings start moving their training camp to either their own facility or something, so then Pittsburgh would take over.
Yeah, they're moving.
They're
going to move to St. Paul, near the St. Paul area. That's where the Vikings are. Yeah.
Okay, so then Pittsburgh second, but what's it like, Dale? What's the atmosphere like with the Packers and St. Norbert College?
Well, now, so just to be clear, they don't practice at St. Norbert. They still practice at their regular facilities at the Don Hudson Center and Ray Nitschke Field. That's right there across the street from Lambeau. The St. Norbert is just basically where the guys sleep at night, and it's where they get dinner and stuff. So they'll still have maybe they have breakfast before they leave the dorms, but they'll have lunch, you know, over at Lambeau, and they still practice and everything at their normal facilities. So St. Norbert's basically is just their housing complex for 2 or 3 weeks.
Got it. I see it here, 6.62 mile commute, 11 minutes each way. How about the bikes, since I'm talking about training camp? When did that what's that tradition like? Why did that start? The bicycles? I know I have vivid memories of way back when Reggie White pedaling his bicycle.
Yeah, that goes back really far. I can't even tell you the exact date, exact year, but what it is it's even crazy now. If you can probably find recent pictures online, like on Twitter. I think even the Packers tweeted something out at the beginning of camp, but you had kids that will line up at the crack of dawn in the morning. They'll have their bikes out there, and, you know, they'll try and flag down players, or players will go up to them, and the players will ride their bikes from Lambeau Field all the way across the big parking lot, across the street. They've got it blocked off for, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it takes for the players to make the move over to the practice facility, the entrance gate there. They get off the bike, and they'll go and practice, and then at the end of practice, they come back, and they try and hook up with the same kid, and they'll ride that kid's bike back to over to Lambeau toward the players' parking lot, the locker room area. And then, like when they're riding the bike, sometimes the kids will ride on the bike with them if it's big enough, or the kids will run beside them, and the kids will carry the players' helmets. And then when it's all said and done, if it's a one-day deal, the players will sign some autographs for the kids, and, the family, or, give them the wristbands and stuff. And you've also got other stories. They just did a story recently on Packers.com. Corey Lensley, the starting center, he's developed this bond with this kid who's been pretty sick here recently. He's developed this bond with him, and he rides his bike, and he's been doing it for 2 or 3 years now. So you'll have guys that will form a bond with a player or with a child, and he'll ride that one bike all of camp and not just one-day thing. So, so it's pretty. You got to get you got to establish that relationship and get your bike early in the morning if you want to try and get in the bike line for Packers training camp.
Spending some time with Dale Ryman. He's the sports director of WSAW TV. That's News Channel 7 in Wausau, Wisconsin. And he talks about Twitter, his Twitter handle, @DaleRyman_WSAW, if you want to find out more things Packers. So we'll find out more from you, Dale. Yeah, it's preseason game number 1. We've heard out here, absolutely no Aaron Rodgers, so don't be looking for him. On our end of things, we expect maybe Carson Wentz for a series, maybe 2 tops, not very long for Carson Wentz. But what are some of the storylines Packer-wise that you guys are following out there?
Yeah, you're right. You won't see Aaron Rodgers. You may not see Aaron Rodgers at all this preseason. Last year, he only played 2 series, the whole preseason in 1 game. He played 26 snaps all of last preseason. So, he's proven that he doesn't really need the reps. He likes getting the reps more so in practice against his own team than he does against, in preseason and have the chance of injury. But some of the big storylines for the Packers tonight, obviously, Brett Hundley, who is going into the season as Aaron's backup quarterback. We really haven't seen a whole lot of Hundley since the 2015 preseason, because last year he was nursing an ankle injury at the beginning of camp. Then he got healthy, came back and played. And then in the first preseason game he played in, he got tackled by Khalil Mack of the Raiders, twisted his other ankle, or the same ankle again, and then he didn't play the rest of the preseason. So he's entering year 3. So he has a lot to prove to get out there to show that he's been learning from behind Rodgers and learning that offense, because, after this season, he may not be auditioning for the Packers anymore. This is his chance to show other teams that I can play quarterback for you, because, coming out of UCLA, he was a highly regarded quarterback that the Packers were able to get in the 4th or 5th round. So watching Brett Hundley tonight will be one of the things. And really, how many snaps does he get behind the first team offensive line? Did they get out there for a series or 2 and give him something? Or is he going to have to do it behind the second and third stringers and guys that will be on the street here in 3 or 4 weeks? Another storyline for the Packers is their special teams. Last week during family night, Mason Crosby, who we all expect when he gets out there, he's going to just split the uprights, no questions asked. But last week he missed 6 out of 11 field goals. Now, granted, it was family night and it was a practice, but he has a new long snapper and he has a new punter / holder that's trying to get acclimated this season. He's had the same holder for the last 4 or 5 years, and he's had the same long snapper his whole 9 years he's been in Green Bay. So those guys need to get on the same page for Mason. Get the laces turned right, get the snap, get the timing down, because Mason says he just has to trust and go. And right now, the trust isn't there just yet. They've not been very clean in practices. And then last week during family night, last Saturday, it was really ugly. So those are probably 2 of the top things that we're keeping an eye on here, Packers-wise. And also the top two draft picks for the Packers, cornerback Kevin King and also safety Josh Jones. Both of those guys expected to play a lot this season, because we all know that if you watched any Packers games last year, the secondary was horrendous. And those guys are going to hope to make an impact this season right away. So we'll have to see how they look as well when they get into game action.
Dale, Nick Costco, thanks for joining us. Local product for us here in South Jersey, Joe Callahan. He's on the quarterback depth chart back with the Packers this season. How does he fit into their plans, and what do you think he has to show in order to actually make this roster this year, possibly even being the top backup behind Aaron Rodgers? Because, frankly, last year he looked pretty good during the preseason.
Yeah, he was the story of the preseason last year for the Packers and fans and the media. If Brett Hundley's healthy, he has no chance of passing Brett Hundley on the depth chart. So, and if Brett Hundley's healthy, they won't keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster. So the best that Joe Callahan can hope for is to be on the practice squad once again. Maybe they keep him on the roster. It depends on what happens with the secondary and the running backs and how many they keep of those guys. But he won't get up to number 2. He's a solid 3. Whether it be practice squad or, if they do keep him on the 53.
Dale, this is Josh, and I want to ask you about the cornerback. You mentioned Kevin King. The secondary was absolutely decimated by injuries last year, and to me, I look at a guy like Kevin King. I think this is a guy who can be for this franchise another stalwart at the cornerback position. But how is the cornerback position looking for them? You got Devin House there, you got Rollins, you got Randall, so you have some guys there. But after all the injuries that were suffered last year, from the outside looking in, it seems like that position is in flux.
Yeah, well, I think everyone's pretty happy with where the cornerback is right now. As far as depth-wise, like you said, you've got Devon House, Quentin Rollins, Demarius Randall. Randall was hurt last year, constantly hurt with groin and hamstring injuries. Quentin Rollins could never get healthy last year. Devon House, he was left Green Bay, went to Jacksonville, and he was cast away by the Jaguars. So now he's back here in Green Bay, and he's going to be a solidified starter for sure. He's helping some of the young guys. So what Kevin King brings to the table that the Packers secondary has lacked the last couple of years is height. He's 6'3", but he's also got speed too. And they haven't had that in Green Bay recently. Now he's struggled a little bit in camp. He was nursing a little bit of an injury at the beginning of training camp, but he's starting to come on. He hasn't looked as good as Josh Jones, but Kevin King will no doubt play a big part this year. And like I said, he plays big. He's got the long arms, he's got the big reach. And talking about Josh Jones, they drafted him as safety, but him and Morgan Burnett, they've been lining up a lot during this training camp in that inside linebacker / safety hybrid type position. So that would allow them to get, because Packers play 3-4, so that would allow them to get maybe 5 DBs on the field at once, especially someone that can help in the inside linebacker position too, which is a weaker position for the Packers. So Kevin King, we'll see what he has tonight. Obviously, he's going to be going up against the second and third receivers for the Eagles, but they expect big things from him and Josh Jones to contribute this year. And the Packers defense, if it was at least even top 15, top 12 defense, you're talking maybe they're in the Super Bowl last year. But the big things expected from the offense, they hope that the defense can make some ground.
He's Dale Ryman. He's the sports director from WSAW NewsChannel 7 in Wausau, Wisconsin. You can find him on Twitter at Dale Ryman _WSAW. And Dale, I'll tell you this, anytime you have Eagles and Packers in the same sentence last year playing the Eagles, that's where the Packers turned things around and started that march in what turned out to be a pretty good season. You think this is a playoff team once again then?
The Packers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. I think the Super Bowl is in Minneapolis coming up in February, and for Packers fans, it's always Super Bowl or bust. But this is it. This is what you've got to do. Ted Thompson, who never dips into free agency, he dipped a little bit this year. He went and got Jari Evans to help replace T.J. Lang. He's got some years on him, playing 12 years with the Saints, but you're talking about a guy who's been an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. They went and got Martellus Bennett from the Patriots. Bennett will provide that offensive threat at tight end that the Packers haven't had since Jermichael Finley went down. And they went inside Lance Kendricks also, who will back up Martellus Bennett. And they're excited because they can maybe get 2 tight ends on the field at the same time. The sky's the limit for the offense. Like I said, they need the defense to catch up. And, playoffs for sure. No one's going to touch them in that division. And it's Super Bowl or bust for this team. And really, they need it. McCarthy and Rodgers, they need another Super Bowl appearance, because that's the thing. Yeah, he's got one, but man, they think that they should have had so many more. They got to start fast too, because Rodgers has played in 3 NFC Championship games, and all 3 have been on the road. And he talked about last year when they lost in Atlanta. I was down there, and he said, "Look, if we get this game to Lambeau, it's a different story." And that's what the goal is this year, is to get that NFC Championship game to Lambeau.
Dale Ryman with us from WSAW in Wausau. He's with all that multiple Super Bowl talk. We're in Philadelphia, where we haven't won anything since a world championship pre-Super Bowl in 1960. Our audience is probably going, okay, pal, okay. Hey, I loved it, man. It was really fun to catch up, and maybe we'll find you down the road, okay?
Sounds good, Pete. Take care, guys.